Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, May 1st for the City of Carrabelle's regular City Commission meeting, and we are at the City Hall chambers at 6 p.m. If you would all please stand for the prayer and Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for the most glorious blessings and direction that you provide for us on a daily basis as we move through our lives and enjoy the great, wonderful bounties and beauties and pleasures of this world. And we ask that you provide your guidance and direction tonight as we move forward in our business at hand. In your name we pray. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on the agenda is to approve or disapprove the attorney's invoices. Has everyone had a chance to look those over?
I'll make a motion to approve March attorney's invoices.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick, second by Commissioner Walden. Do we have any discussion? All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Do we have any public comment for any issues that are not listed on the agenda? Okay, move on. Commissioners' reports. Commissioner Walden?
I have nothing tonight.
Commissioner Pedrick?
I have nothing tonight, ma'am.
What? Commissioner Gray?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
And Commissioner Millender?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, I have a,
We know.
put me on the spot. All right, I have a couple things. I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter last weekend. Last month, at the April 16th TDC meeting, the board approved the City of Carrabelle's request for just under $40,000. That includes $5,000 for overtime expenses for officers working during tourism-related events like Culture Crawl, Riverfront Festival, and things like that. Yep. $12,600 for ADEs for all of our patrol vehicles, and just over $22,000 for a new variable message board. So it's good news to us. On April 19th, I had the pleasure of attending the Antique Car and Boat Show in downtown Apalachicola, where our very own Miss Tamara Allen was presented with the 2025 Nancy Hodgson Lifetime Volunteer Award by the Apalachicola Bay Chamber of Commerce. We know how special she is to our community, so it was an honor seeing her recognized by our neighboring city as well.
Yeah.
Last Saturday was the Carrabelle Riverfront Festival. This is typically our busiest day in town. I saw a lot of happy faces of locals and visitors enjoying the festival, which is hosted by our Carrabelle Chamber of Commerce. Tomorrow night is our May 1st Friday in downtown Carrabelle from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Join us for an evening filled with fresh air, friendly faces, and fabulous finds as the downtown business community opens its doors for a lively night of music, shopping, and connection. And that's all I have for that. All right. Next, we'll move on to staff reports. First up is our city attorney.
And I just have just one item I wanted to bring to your attention. From FWC, they asked that we make a clerical edit to the Resolution 25-006, which was the Avenue C boat ramp overflow parking. The clerical edit was to allow the city administrator to do any grant administration if we get the grant. So it had it in the same paragraph where we authorized the mayor to sign the application documents. We allow the city administrator to administer the grant if it's received.
Okay, you need a motion on that?
It cannot hurt to ratify that clerical change. Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to edit that to include the city administrator to administer the grant.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick and a second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any discussion? And all of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
Perfect, and
That's
that's
all.
it.
Thank you. And our city administrator is out this evening. Ms. Keisha, did you have anything to report on her behalf?
Yes.
Okay.
We have been asked to announce the Team Franklin meeting. It will be Wednesday, May 28th at 9 a.m. at the Franklin County School District office in East Point. That's open to the public, so anyway. And then Saturday, May 3rd, is the Build-A-Bucket and the pod exercise, the point of distribution. It will be at the old school / old city hall at 1001 Gray Avenue. It starts at 10 p.m.
A.M.
But we need volunteers there by 9:45 for briefing. We need all of our commissioners that can come to help. Our pod will be giving out water and MREs, and we will also have a tent set up for the Build-A-Bucket. There will be vendors for Build-A-Bucket, handing out disaster kits and other items, and food vendors on site. So if any of y'all can make it Saturday, she's gonna need some help. We will need some help.
I see that the water and the MREs were delivered today.
I don't know, I wouldn't.
Yeah, they're there.
Anything else for
Not for court.
administrator? Okay. Would you like to go ahead with yours?
And then mine, we
Count
have,
members.
let's see, P and Z scheduled for May 15th at 2 p.m. I don't have anything for the agenda as of now, but tentatively, May the 20th will be CRA at 3:30. We will be closed the 26th for Memorial Day. And June the 5th at 6 p.m. will be our next city commission meeting.
All right. Is that everything?
That's all.
Thank you. And we will move on to Mr. Russell Large with Inovia.
All right, thank you. Our Lanark East and West Sewer Rehabilitation Project is well underway. Contractor's making really good progress there. The operation they're doing now is the pipelining. They're going to come back and do some manhole rehabilitation and then some other line replacement. They're making good progress. We do have a change order that we're processing, and there's money available in the grant program for that change order. All right, I did want to bring you up to speed on water supply well number 5. We have coordinated with Charlie and determined that it would be appropriate to do 2 test wells, one at FCI, which is well number 4, and one at the treatment plant site, which would be adjacent to well number 3. So that would be the 2 different well locations. We discussed piggybacking on the City of Tallahassee contract for that well work, and that's done by Schultz, formerly known as Road Drilling. They have all the information. For Carrabelle, they drilled a lot of those wells here already. So those would be 12-inch wells. We did note that the wells that do not have good water quality are shallower. The one well that has good water quality is at 125 feet deep. The rest of them are more shallow. So we're anticipating that we'll get some good quality around 150 or maybe 200 feet deep. So we've reached out to Schultz and asked for some pricing there. And we do understand that there is some funding available that the city has through the American Rescue Act funds that would help fund some of this work. So, and those test wells can actually become the production wells, so they don't have to drill twice. Okay, so that's the work we're pursuing on well number 5. All right, and then we continue to monitor the other grant projects and the programs that don't have cycles open yet, but we're monitoring those as they open. Okay, and that's all we have for today.
Does anyone have questions for Mr. Large? All right, we'll move on to our advisory board reports. Do we have any this evening? Ms. Tamra?
I want to start out by saying, repeating something that you might have just said, but during the Culture Crawl and the Riverfront Festival, the city employees were fabulous. They did things the day before you needed them, but they had them in place. Everything was there. It really went well. And they were thrilled that we managed to finally lose the 10-foot poles that we used to make them build this double tent. And unfortunately, we've lost those poles, so we can no longer build this unnecessary but very attractive thing that we've done for like 5 years. But it was kind of a good news, bad news thing. But they were fabulous, and it was remarkably clean when it was over. I just noticed usually it's not very clean when all the people leave, but this year it was particularly clean. So I appreciate that. We also appreciate the fact that someone from the city went and talked to certain business owners that were blocking the sidewalk and making it impossible for people to use the sidewalk. And so I think some of that got straightened out as a result of the festival. So we're very thankful for that as well. And we do have this new exhibit at City Hall. And for those of you that ever knew Charles Lee Daniel, he really was City Hall for many, many years. He worked for the city, and he kept an orderly. He was so precise in his record keeping without a computer. He was amazing, and we've just got some samples of that in the exhibit, along with antique office supplies and pictures of other people that worked there at the time. But for the most part, Mr. Charles Lee was, he was what kept it all going. And we've got hundreds of maps with little typed up labels on them that we can go back to the 30s and 40s with information that got all packaged up and bind them again, which is really remarkable. So we're thankful for that, as well as his apparently being very good at what he did. We appreciate that. We are, now that we've got our 2 big festivals out of the way, we're going back and looking at some of the projects that we were doing before we went into the festival mode, which really starts at Christmas. And I think that there are some ways that we might be able to come up with some just minimal kinds of funding sources, but things that we can use to enhance some of the projects that we're trying to do now that you're doing in the CRA and that we're doing in different places. And so I just wanted to say all that. And I also wanted to mention that the mayor was actually in on a surprise. They fibbed to me and told me it was something for my husband. And I thought they were all telling me the truth. So she stole me away and took me to Appalachian. That only I got the award. It was really really entertaining.
It was fun.
It's really pretty if you come by and look at it. So, okay. One more thing. The city has a group of barricades on the sidewalk in front of the telephone company. that sidewalk makes a little curve there, and it's just covered up with, like 4 different cones and barriers and stuff. That makes me have to go out into the highway onto 98, which I don't do. I don't want to do that. Or else I have to go 4 blocks out of the way to get a half a block. If there's any way we could help them, whoever needs to fix that, I don't know whether that's our doing
I
it
can
or
speak to that.
phone company did it. But
So that's Weber that's doing the construction, and they were having a hard time getting in touch with Duke, so we reached out to our community relations manager and put the 2 entities in contact, because they have to make it handicap when they do the repairs. So they have been in touch, and they're trying to expedite the process so that.
they really.
And I don't think that they will move the cones just because of the safety hazard that it is now. So we are trying to get that expedited. So apparently the 2 companies couldn't get the 2 head honchos in touch, but we got them all in touch, and so they should be moving forward.
Well, I'm not enough of a thrill seeker to want to go on.
I know, and I hated to see it all
So-
blocked off like that,
Yeah,
so
but,
we did, you
But
know.
I'd appreciate it, whatever y'all can do to get them encouraged along. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tamara. Right, I believe that's all for our advisory boards. Next, we will pause our regular meeting and move into the quasi-judicial hearing. First on the, item number 1 is approve, disapprove a special exception for property located at 309 Northwest 5th Street. Specifically, a special exception is requested to allow residential use, which is currently zoned C1 mixed-use commercial. And I believe this property, if I'm not mistaken, has always been a house. It was abandoned for a good number of years. It has been renovated, brought back to life to be used as a home. I do not believe it was ever used as a business, but if I have, please correct me. Okay.
One thing of note is that the letters were sent out in accordance to the code. We did not hear back from anyone as far as either side, and we did not get to have a P&Z meeting because we didn't have a quorum, so that'll be on the thing later because we are short, two members, so. But we don't make them wait a whole nother month
Right.
because a lot of times these things are under contract, so we push it forward to, y'all ultimately make the decision anyway, so.
Okay. Are there
So-
any commissioners with any questions?
No, it's always been used residential, and we've kind of set the precedence to approve it, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve residential use of 309 Northeast 5th Street.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
That motion was by Commissioner Pedrick, second by Commissioner Wallen. And do we have any discussion? Okay, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, and that's the end of the quasi-judicial hearing. So, item number 1 for new business is approve, disapprove hiring a lobbyist. And I know this probably came as a shock to a lot of you.
Kind of shocking, yeah.
Well, this was kind of my idea, and the more I talked to our new engineering person, Travis Wade, he brought a lot to my attention. And while I was in Tallahassee, was it month before last month, I got to work with some lobbyists and see what they actually do. I never thought we would need one either, but after seeing it firsthand, I saw the benefits, because what they do is nothing I ever want to do, but they bring a lot of benefits to their, to the people that they work for. But I believe Mr. Wade can give us some better insight, and he could probably explain it a little bit better than what I can about what the benefits would be. But this is definitely just a beginning conversation, so please don't feel pressured either way and ask all the questions you want.
I was hired as a city manager in Apalachicola 5 years ago, and the first year I tried to do it. Me and another guy that had a lot of contacts in Tallahassee, and we went to the legislature, and we had 2 appropriations requests, and we got nowhere. We talked to everybody, and it's hard to get in to see people. And so we wound up hiring the Southern Group, and Kate Deloach and Clark Smith they were kind of assigned to us. And the first year we went, we had 2 legislative appropriations requests, and we got approved on both of them. And she would call down, I would go to Tallahassee, I'd sit through committee meetings, and I'd just sit there and wave in support when they'd ask if anybody was here, and it would go, everybody would vote in favor. If you were sitting there, if you were a face in the crowd and you voted or you waved in support, they like to see you there. Anyway, everything we asked for, we got it. I mean, every appropriations request we were funded on for a parking lot. We had infrastructure requests with water and sewer. We had a request for sprinkler heads for our spray fields, and I think they cost around 50 grand a year, give or take. And last year we received a little over $400,000. I think we got about 150 on one request, and I think it was 275 on another request. So they returned on the investment very well. But we had a great relationship with them. And we had issues with DEP on some consent orders and things. I would call Kate, she'd call DEP. I had a meeting. So it wasn't just with the legislature. We had them with DEP, whatever it is now. It was economic opportunity then, commerce. She would hook up a meeting for me. I mean, they worked on every state and federal agency we had troubles with. They make it happen. So it worked for us. But if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Well, one thing I didn't realize when this first came up was I was like, well, how many laws do we need passed at the Capitol? We're such a small city. It's way beyond that. The main thing that would be beneficial to us is getting these grants and this legislative funding and just finding funding from different monies that we wouldn't normally even know about. And they follow up on it. They let us know, what needs to be filed, when it needs to be filed, who we need to file it with, and they assist us in that way. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Would you say that? Okay.
Yeah, our goal, or my goal at the time, was to try to put together like about a 5-year plan. This is what we're going to need this year, and already have next year's in mind, because it comes quick and you've got to have your requests handy. I would call them, tell them what we wanted. I'd get approval from my commission. I'd tell them what we wanted, and they would put together the appropriations request, send it to me. We'd tweak the narrative, and then they'd send it in for us. They would make regular visits to the commission, update the commission. They'd make calls to commissioners individually and speak to them and tell them what, answer any questions before meetings and things. They were good. And not that they're the only ones that do that, because there's a ton of them up there. They were just the ones that we used.
Thank you.
Was your lobbyist tied to an engineer firm?
No.
Excuse me?
No, sir. They were tied to the Southern Group, is the name of their lobbying firm.
Okay. So they were a contract employee with the city of Appalachia?
Yeah, we had an agreement with them.
Full-time, part-time,
It was just for lobbying services,
as needed?
as needed. Yes, sir. They just had a set amount of 50. I think it was 50,000, 55. I think it was 50 though.
Which we would have to do an RFP for.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking about what we've done since I've been on the board and our grants. Mr. Russell Large has been real instrumental, and a couple of other grant writers that we've been working with since I've been on the board for almost 8 years. It's not 100%, but we've been pretty successful with them. Which I don't think, my experience with lobbyists working for the state of Florida, they're not 100% either. They do get in and know a lot of folks by first name basis and do a lot of whining and dining, so to speak. But for a city like Carrabelle, small city like Carrabelle, a full-time lobbyist, I don't know that, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Wade, but I don't know that that would be, and now if we had someone in Inovia, which is already on contract with the city of Carrabelle, that could provide some of those services as needed, that we could afford to do instead of paying a $50,000 a year salary, just pulling from a number, not necessarily pulling from that. It might be of interest, but I'm hesitant to hire just a lobbyist for Carrabelle because of necessity and funding. But that's just me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I got 2 cents, but no questions. I think that, I have a lot of questions, but I think, with this, it's gonna take more than a discussion here tonight.
For
So
sure.
maybe we should think about doing a work group, because there's a big budget issue with that amount, and it's gonna take a little
Well,
bit
that
to
was
explain it.
Appalachia's amount with that specific
Right.
lobbyist. Like as Ms. Keisha said, we would have to put out, it's a RFQ, a request for qualifications, get bids from whoever's interested in potentially being the lobbyist, and then find out what their fees would be, so.
Yeah, if we wanted to do something like that, that cost us nothing to get answers to what we're looking at, and then discuss it more with our budget and all, I'd be up to it, but
Right.
no
That's why
questions
I
tonight.
wanted to bring it up now, because you know how fast budget season comes up.
Right on top of us.
We're getting close. I did want to ask Mr. Large, with these grants that you're currently working on, just those grants, what's your opinion? Do you think if we had a lobbyist in our court that things would go more smoothly, or would that be do you see a benefit to it? What are your thoughts?
So the programs that we're requesting grant monies from, primarily come from DEP, and I'm sure those folks can be lobbied. It's hard to measure. I don't really know what the benefit would be,
Okay.
but just shooting from the hip, it probably couldn't hurt. Maybe Travis has, yeah.
Maybe even
yeah.
cover some of the grants we don't get from the legislature.
Well, a legislative appropriation, absolutely.
That's what we use
That
it
would
for.
be instrumental for that, absolutely.
Okay.
The other grants through DEP, I can't say for sure.
Because just real quick, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What Courtney and I were just brainstorming when I was talking to her about this is that we would, ideally, it would come out of not just the general fund budget, but also water sewer, because a lot of the grants that we need are in the water sewer department. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well.
The city of Apalachicola used the lobbyists for legislative appropriations and for issues with other agencies, DEP included. We didn't use them to try to push for any grant monies. We had a grant
Gotcha.
writer that did the grant writing, and we were, I don't know, we were probably 99% on the grant applications. The one we missed was the FBIP. We didn't get that one a few times, but I believe almost every other grant we applied for, we got. She was a really good grant writer, but the lobbyist didn't help us on those.
I was using the wrong word then.
Yeah, the lobbyists
Sorry.
didn't help us on the grants,
Okay.
but with the legislative appropriations, they
Gotcha.
took care of the lobbying for that.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
So would the agenda approve or disapprove hiring a lobbyist? I'm going to motion that we table it, we reach out and get a estimate of what it would cost us, and then we think about doing a workshop.
Do we need a motion to get an RFQ, or can we?
We would if we was going that route, but are you wanting just to call around and get some?
Which way's the best?
Well, the best would be to go ahead and do the RFQ or RFP for proposals. That way it would line out everything that they would do.
Okay. Okay.
amounts. You wouldn't be obligated to hire any of them. You're just getting proposals of what they would be doing, how much they would be charging, and so forth. The only real money you'd be into it would be advertisements for the requests.
And to me, if we're gonna look in this, that's all information that we need.
Right.
That we can answer.
Right. So, motion to do that.
Motion to go out for RFP for potentially hiring a
Yes.
lobbyist. Okay, that motion's by Commissioner Pedrick. Do we have a second? I'll second. And any other discussion? All of those in favor for getting an RFP to look into getting a lobbyist?
And if I could, I know we've used the two terms RFQ, RFP. I do think RFQ would be the better for that.
Qualifications.
Request for qualifications.
Got it.
Would they be, then they wouldn't be giving us a proposal?
They would, we can put that in the request to kind of outline. Yeah.
So it is a RFQ?
Did I just get myself that? I will. I'll be happy. Yes. I say I
Okay.
walked myself into that one. That's fine.
RFQ. All right. Commissioner Pedrick made the motion, second by Mayor Brown. Any other discussion or questions?
Are we going for the queue?
Yes,
Yes.
RFQ.
Do we have to amend his motion?
I amended the RFQ.
Anything else? All right, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. Did you get all that, Keisha? Sorry. Did you get all that, Miss Keisha?
I think so, yes.
Okay. All right, item number 2, discussion and possible action for hiring a new police officer. And just to answer some questions I'm sure everyone has, this is not a new position. One of our officers moved on, so we have an open position with our current police department. And Chief Hogan is coming up to give us a little info.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening. So I'm asking for the commission's approval to hire Jaden Kipe for the position of police officer. He recently graduated from the Pat Thomas Law Enforcement Academy. Prior to that, he served our country for 4 years in the U.S. Army.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Millender,
I second that motion.
second by Commissioner Gray. Is there any further discussion? All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay, item number 3, appoint new volunteers to the P&Z board. Currently, we have 2 open seats, and it's affecting whether or not we're able to have meetings at this time. And I believe we have several letters of interest. Ms. Keisha, do you want to take this one?
So we had Mr. Leonard Lucas here that submitted an interest. If you want to come up and speak now, now's the time. The other one withdrew their application, that they just didn't think they was going to have the time, but then Ms. Mel Kelly said that she would be interested before the meeting started, so, and they're both here, so. You want to tell them a little bit about your background and what makes you qualified?
I'm not sure I'm qualified, but I've had some construction experience.
Okay.
I've renovated 3 or 4 houses and dealt with people, interacting with people, doing things, you know, contractors and such. And I'm a resident. So,
Of the city, yes,
yeah, I've
he
been here
is a
6
resident.
years.
Mhm.
And that's my neighbor right there. Anyway, I'm here if you want me. just let me know.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lenny.
Did Ms. Mulcully submit a letter of interest or?
No, she just happened to see it on the agenda, so.
Okay.
I told her that I would let y'all know that she was interested as well.
Okay,
Do we need a letter, or can we approve without a letter of interest?
You just appoint somebody,
Appoint.
I mean.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Lucas and Mel Kelly to the P and Z board.
we have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick to appoint Mr. Lucas and Ms. Mel Kelly to the P and Z board.
I'll second that motion.
All right, that's seconded by Commissioner Walden. Is there any discussion? All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you guys for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, item number 4 is discussion and possible action regarding water and sewer fees. And we have a handout that was at our desk when we got here. So the changes that are listed, the proposed changes, is a reconnect fee, which previously it looks like we did not have. And this would go to $100, which is on par with other communities.
Just because I do, so this reconnect fee would be less than 6 months, it looks like. So we do have a reconnect fee.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes,
uh-huh.
yes, yes. Okay. So if they,
So they removed it and they reclassified it to the different classifications. So it'd be less than 6 months, more than 6 months, reinstall meter, replace new meter. So they're changing that into a couple different categories there.
okay.
Because it was just a flat $50, so no matter what, it was $50.
So if they're disconnected for more than 6 months, is there no reconnection fee? It's hard to tell because
It's-
there aren't lines
Mayor.
on our sheet.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I can provide some commentary. if you
Okay,
like.
thank you.
All right. All right, thank you. So the reconnect fee before was just the $50. So we're saying we would reclassify those as a reconnect fee for less than 6 months. So if your account is on hold for less than 6 months, your reconnect fee is $100.
Okay.
If your account is on hold for more than 6 months, we'll treat you as a new customer and you pay the deposit again. So that,
Oh, I see.
so it acts as an incentive to not disconnect.
Gotcha.
So if you're a seasonal customer, you may be prone to not disconnect. So that's the reason for the classification.
Okay, that makes sense. It was just, it didn't
Right.
have lines, and I
Yeah,
couldn't
it's
tell
not-
what was going on.
Okay.
Can
We-
you-
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Russell, can you give me a little bit more information about why you're classifying the 6 month?
Sure. Sure.
0 to 6 and above 6?
Yes, in talking with Jerry and Charlie and Natalie, the seasonal users, the revenue is lost during that period while their account is on hold, but the city still has to produce water and still has to treat sewer. So that's a gap in revenue from those seasonal users. So we're trying to set these fees so that the seasonal users may be less prone to disconnect and continue to pay that base fee, which helps the utility operate and maintain itself.
Well, my question is, wouldn't they be less prone to disconnect if you just had a flat fee, regardless of whether it was 6 months or longer?
I see your point. And I guess we're open to that.
Because right
It's
now,
open-
we
we're
just
open to
have a
that.
$50 fee, is that correct?
That's true. That's true.
Has nothing to do with 6 months or a year?
That's true. Effectively, less than 6 months, you would pay $100. Over 6 months, effectively, you'd have to pay the deposit again, which is $150. So it's really 100 or 150. That's the difference.
So what I'm seeing there is, by classifying it with a 6 months, is you're just incentivizing them to not go any longer than 6 months with their
Yes.
disconnection.
Yes. All right. Also, at the bottom of the blue band there, we're showing adding, and these are just recommendations for your consideration.
That's right, but we've got to discuss it,
yeah.
know what we're talking about.
Right. So at the bottom of that blue band, we have a disconnect fee. That disconnect fee, that's a new fee. That's an added fee, which is $125. So if you want to put your account on hold for some period of time, you pay the disconnect fee. That also incentivizes customers not to disconnect if you're a seasonal user.
I have a question about that one.
Okay.
How do we know, I mean, obviously there are some that's been doing this for a while, but if a person just wants to move and they disconnect, are they still gonna pay the 225 fee, and how?
Yes. I see the concern there, and maybe a way to differentiate that is to say if you want to put your account on hold for a period of time,
Yeah,
that's
normally
the
if they're
fee.
moving, then we turn one off and turn one on, leave the deposit on file, so it's not
Gotcha.
really.
I agree with
Okay,
Keisha
I
there.
see.
Yeah.
So there is a way to tell the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that, because obviously if they're leaving, they want their deposit back.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right.
So I just got a quick question. If somebody's at a house and they leave it on, what is their base monthly fee for water and sewer?
For,
$38, is that
no,
right?
for the inside the city, it's right at 50, and outside the city, it's right at 60, I believe, is the 47 something. 40
So if I'm gonna be gone 5 months, it's cheaper for me to pay the fees? That's what I'm kinda,
Yes.
that's what I'm,
Yes.
that's what I'm kinda getting at.
Yes.
So there's no incentive there for them to leave it on, if they're gonna be gone more than 5 months.
I agree with you. We also, I mean, we could add those dollars up, and it would be much more expensive to charge that fee of that amount. That, I don't know, we're
No.
trying to be somewhat fair.
I understand what we're trying to do, but I think we need to look at the disconnect fee and, maybe raise that if that's what we're trying to do. If our objective is for them to leave it on because of the cost of our people going out and turning it off and turning it back on and everything, and we still having to treat it, then where it's set at right now is not adequate to meet that agenda.
That's it.
I kind of,
5 months.
Okay.
I kind of looked at it like, this is a significant amount more than what it was. It was just $50, and they can disconnect and reconnect, whereas now, for 6 months, it would be $225. So either way, that's a significant amount more, and if they want to leave for 5 or 6 months, this is what it will cost, which is more beneficial to the water sewer department than the $50.
So my next question is, if they're gone for more than 6 months, they have to pay the deposit.
Yes.
So are we talking about just the water deposit, or does that include both deposits? Because right
Well,
now there
no.
is a water and sewer
Okay,
deposit.
It would be the same amount as the deposit, so $150.
Okay, just for the water. So nothing for this, because there's 2 deposits, right? One for the water and one for the sewer.
Right now, it's 150, 75 for each, but later on down, it looks like they're proposing to increase the deposit as well so it would be 150 for water and
135.
150 for sewer.
Yeah, so
Right.
150 for
Right.
sewer,
I
if
mean,
they say,
75 for sewer.
Right, so for renters, it would be 150. For owners, it would be 75.
Oh, so
Say
that's
that
not,
again?
Okay, the water deposit for renters would be 150. The water deposit for owners would be 75.
So owner's total deposit, if they was to pay both, would only be 150.
Yes.
no, the
Owners.
way I'm reading this, Russell,
Okay.
is the water deposit's not gonna change, so it would stay at 150, and the deposit for a renter would go go up to 150.
That's correct.
So the water deposit's not changing.
So the water deposit for owners, yeah, there's no change in both of them. So renters are 150, owners are 75. So, but it's the owners that are leaving the house and doing this. So,
Yes.
It's the owners.
yes.
I see.
So this.
I thought that was more renters.
Well, the owners is the ones that are coming down here and staying
I
and
see.
then leaving. So it's not the renters.
Okay.
And I apologize, I haven't had a chance to look over this, but I do see some discrepancies, and maybe we should.
Table this to another one? Yes.
And-
It's very confusing, this chart.
Yeah,
And I would try to simplify it a little bit.
Please.
It's just my suggestion, is instead of trying to complicate as an example, the 6-month deal, because right now, we have that fee at $50 regardless of whether it's 6 months or a year, to simplify those increases a little bit. That's just my suggestion. And, yeah, a little bit more work on it, because
With those fees, I'd like to be considerate. We have families that sometime in the winter also live from paycheck to paycheck, and if their water gets cut off, they're not the people that are coming here seasonal and then leaving. So I do want to keep that we make sure that we're watching out for locals that are here. If they get disconnected, that we're not charging the outrageous reconnect fee.
I think these
Well-
are for requested shutoffs.
I was
Is
gonna
that
say,
correct?
I think the biggest thing here on,
yeah, this would be requested shut-offs, not,
Not reconnect fees if we shut somebody off.
a reconnect fee would still be $100.
Right.
Right now, it's 50. But the requested, they would be charging, am I reading this right, Russell? A disconnect fee and then a reconnect fee.
Yes. They'll be paying both of those.
So
Yeah.
if they're
Yeah.
requesting it, then they would pay the disconnect fee for them to go out and turn it off, and then the reconnect fee to go back and turn it off. If they're turned off for
Non-payment.
non-payment, it would be the $50 instead of the $100. And the $100 instead of $50.
So that would go up to $100.
That would go up.
Okay. Do you have something?
can I speak? Anyway, what I was trying to say is I think the biggest, or the most important thing that they're looking at here is not locals that are here on a regular basis. It's the folks that are coming and going and causing a lot of disconnects and reconnects. So the locals is, anyway, I don't think that's the issue. But I agree, I think we need to look at it a little bit more.
Yes.
And I
Okay,
do
fair.
see now that the renter deposit on sewer is going from 75 to 150, and no other deposit is changing. So that's what had me. So the renter was 225.
For both?
For both, was 225 for both, and now it'll be 300 for both.
Yeah.
For a renter. Now, renters are the ones that usually leave us with bills and leave us, that is the biggest turnover and
So,
the hardest to recoup.
so the renters are probably requiring more work than the seasonal?
No, it's just the renters, they, especially say they rent a house for 6 months and then they get run off or something and they leave their bill, they don't pay. Well, if it's just a $225 deposit and their bill's $300, we can't recoup that additional money. And our auditors have also requested that we start wiping our books every 3 years.
I understand that, but my question was, who
But both are.
is the largest service?
Both are
necessities?
pretty much the snowbirds and the renters coming and go. Not all renters, but a big majority of renters are, hopping from place to place.
So we're considering upping the renter deposit because that's the issue that's the biggest with the renters, and we're considering changing the disconnect and reconnect fees because that's the biggest issues with snowbirds.
Snowbird, right. I hope that's not offensive to anybody.
So,
Seasonal people.
Seasonal residents. Okay. That clarifies it, but I agree if
We
someone
need a
wants.
little more time on this.
Yes, please,
that's fair.
because that was a little brain twister right there.
yeah, and maybe simplify it so there's a targeted, what we're targeted at meets the agenda, so when you look at it, people understands.
Fair.
Okay.
Okay,
And
somebody want to table it?
Do we need to table it because it was a discussion?
if I'm not sure of the timeline, Russell can advise us on this, but I know we have not had a rate increase in a long time, as well as our fees and charges, you can tell in comparison to other folks, have not been changed in a long time either. There is a little bit more of a statutory process to go through when you raise utility rates to determine they've got to be determined to be just and equitable and all this. And that's where Inovia would come in to do the rate study, which would include an increase in fees, charges. And we would have to send out notice on the utility bills. That's part of what's required of the hearing at which we're going to discuss it. And I say discuss it, but we're going to vote on it. We're going to take action. And we also have to go through, and I'll get y'all the direction of, it may simply be that same notice, but since we provide service outside the city limits, we've got to do some outreach to those folks too, to make sure they're part of the process on rates and charges when we change them.
So would that be required for these type of changes or for if we are actually changing the cost of the water sewer service?
Right now, it's, I believe it's for everything, rate fixing and collection of charges.
Okay.
Got a question. Rate study's been mentioned. I'm glad that the attorney mentioned that because I had a discussion with some staff about it recently. And that has been mentioned since I've been on the board a few times. And I understand, Mr. Russell, that's your field.
It is.
Could you real quickly
Yep.
explain what that would detail would be?
Certainly. So the Florida Rural Water Association has done a study for the city. We did do a cursory review, and Donna in our office,
Right.
who's well-versed in it, reviewed it, and we see some things that maybe needs to be done differently, better. So we have some recommendations in that regard. So we have to look ahead, 5 to 10 years on considering the growth, the flow of the wastewater treatment plant, when we'll reach capacity. We can project when we'll reach 75% capacity. When we're at 75%, DEP requires that the city look at expanding capacity. So there's cost involved with that. So we can determine what it, I might be getting into the weeds, but we can determine how much it costs to treat 1 gallon of water and project that growth and back into what the rates need to be to pay for that future increase. So there's some analysis, some detailed analysis that needs to take place.
You mentioned about a rate study. The one that you just mentioned. Is it current enough it could be utilized for us to open discussions about it? For you to present? You said you had information. I
Yes.
think you said you had
Yes.
information you could present to the board.
We could provide comments on the study that was performed by the Water Management District.
Right.
We can certainly do that. And what we had talked about during our utility meetings was that we would prepare a proposal to the city to develop that study. There are consultants that's all they do. And I think it would be a good idea if we collaborated with that type of a consultant as part of our work. So I would like to include that. If we're asked to do the rate study, that's how we would approach it.
Okay, so what you're saying is we still have to do a rate study. But I understood you to say that you had a rate study that you already have enough information on that you could present to the board.
Okay, the Florida Rural Water Association did a rate study.
Okay.
We found,
And they presented it a couple meetings ago.
and we found some issues with that study. There's some of that study had appropriate information. It's good information. So, I think we could use parts of it, but there's other parts that need to be reworked.
Bottom line is we need to pay for another rate study,
That would be my recommendation.
okay? That's the question I'm asking. And to what extent, what would be a ballpark figure of the cost of a rate study?
Yeah, put me on the spot here.
I
would like to.
don't want to put you on the spot to hold you to anything, but
Okay.
That's the reason why I said ballpark.
Okay. I think we're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 20,000, and that's at the top end. I think we'll be under that.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Is this one of the things that we discussed a couple meetings ago when we were talking about getting a, where's my notes? A plan together of different things that we needed to have done as a city, and we made a motion?
And while you're looking at that, Sabrina,
The vulnerability study.
No, that's related to stormwater work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question for Dan.
Okay.
So you're saying that like even these fees, they wouldn't be able to be passed tonight?
Correct.
They would have to go through the whole ordinance and workshops and that a rate change would be?
Yes, historically, and I'll double check some of the ordinances I drafted on this, but the way the statute envisions it is that rates and charges are
Okay.
properly noticed and passed. And then on our ordinances that we've done this in the past, and we should definitely pat ourselves on the back that we've kept rates the same for as long as we have,
Long
which is
time.
wild. I mean, that we've
And
really
even
been
when
able
we
to
did
keep
it
them.
last time, we took 3 years to gradually raise it over 3 years. So then, for like the purpose of this item, they would just vote to either move forward with that or what?
Actually, I would say that you can, the first step is that rate study, right? And the rate study could include different rate structures, just like we had with its 3-year implementation, 2-year implementation. It can go through all kinds of variations of how to get to the target rates for the future. And again, that would be Russell and a consultant's job. But I think that's the first step is to I mean, I guess you've already directed him to, but Russell would get quotes for the rate study.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this is something Charlie wanted to go ahead and move forward on.
Yeah, and Dan is going to know more than me, obviously, but I understood that the fees were
The fees aren't.
could be approved separate and apart from the rates. And maybe I'm mistaken about that. Or maybe they can be done at different times. In other words,
Because our last ordinance didn't include fees. It only had rates and taps. And then I think we had the fees done by resolution. But we might need to check into that.
Okay, so
I see.
this is just simple, but section 180, 136, before a local government shall increase any rate, charge, or fee for water, sewer, utility service, the utility shall provide notice of the proposed increase to each customer of the utility through the utility billing process The notice shall state the date, time, and place of the meeting of the governing board at which such increase will be considered. And then it goes on to say that the notice required in this section is in addition to any notice and public meeting requirements for ordinance adoption as provided by general law. So what we could do is, as I think Russell and Keisha are mentioning, we could separate these two into fees and charges, and then the other into rates, but we'd have two ordinances then. We'd have an ordinance that we can move along quicker to adopt new fees and charges, but those fees and charges, we do need
Due process.
we need due process, and we need to make sure those are just and equitable fees and charges, right? They're held to the same standard as the rates. So we have to have some justification for them, and I mean, I think that should not be hard on the fees and charges because they are so low for, someone getting in a truck, driving out there, taking a lock off a meter, putting it back into service, all that is more than $50.
And,
So.
Go ahead.
okay, and I agree with what the attorney is saying, and those are parts of administration that can be worked out beyond the meeting, because we already have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick and a second for more work to be done.
No, we-
For
Not for
more
this.
work to be done
We
on,
didn't.
No, there's no motion for this.
sorry,
Hold on, I was panicking a minute.
No, that was the last item.
I thought I had the floor.
Oh, sorry.
Do we have a motion on the table that I've missed? Okay.
I think it was suggested, nobody ever made that motion.
I was pretty sure that he made the motion, but
Yeah, I think we just suggested.
I would recommend, I know what Commissioner Pedrick was talking about as far as the chart is a little bit confusing. So simply maybe even just doing this is the fee now, this is what the fee will be, any new fees, call them out as the new name and the charge. So it's just that simple, right? I mean, this is good other information on Panacea, Apalachicola, Mariana, and this can supplement that, but just a simple schedule of old rate, new rate, and then I can turn that, and just to move things along, I can prepare a draft ordinance for review next month along with those rates and charges. And then you guys say, yeah, that looks good, or make these changes. And then we can do first reading, second reading, and we'll just do the notice. We'll pass it like a regular ordinance, but we do need to get it on the bills also.
Question about what you were just saying. So currently, all of our ordinance discusses fees, charges, and rates. Were you suggesting that we separate those to have one ordinance for fees and charges and one ordinance for rates?
Yes, sorry, you're right. I did talk about that earlier. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, from a staff perspective, it sounds like, and I guess Russell's been in meetings with Charlie, and he's antsy to get the charges, fees and charges bumped up, even if we can't get the rates bumped up in the near term. Okay.
Right.
So we're splitting them, fees and charges in one ordinance, rates in another.
So maybe at the next meeting, first item is to discuss splitting the ordinance, and then next we'll discuss changes in fees.
And I don't think we'd have to go into that. You can make a motion at this meeting to draft an ordinance for just the fees.
Fees and charges.
Fees and
Fees
charges,
and
because we
charges.
won't be doing the rates until, the rate studies are extensive. And they're time consuming and expensive, but this is something that Charlie needs to help his budget by the end of budget year
Right.
even, so,
And on that, then this June 5 City Commission, is that June 5?
uh-huh.
June 5th City Commission meeting would be the meeting to put on the bills.
Right, so we would,
How's that gonna work in the billing cycle?
would we bill the last day of the month? So could we put it on the May bill that goes out for June? Or do we need to have more time?
Yeah, we might need more time. I mean, I think people would complain if they only
Yeah.
had 4 or 5 days.
Because I
So
don't
if we
get my
put
bill by
it-
the 5th.
If we put it on the last day of May, so it'd be the June bill, then they could have it on July for first reading and August for second
Would
reading.
that work?
That would work, because that would
Yep.
give them a whole month on their bill,
Yep.
and not just a few days.
On May bill for July first reading.
Is that the, what is that?
Right, well, it's gonna be, actually, it'll be June's bill, because it goes out June 1st. We mail them on the 30th, May 30th, so they would get them the first week of June.
But it's still the May bill,
Yes, because we back bill
And the July 3rd,
July 3rd meeting.
would be
Commission
first reading.
Well, hopefully, we come to an agreement, otherwise,
I'm gonna try to,
Trying to say, whatever.
I understand that he wants to get it done, because like I said earlier, our budget times, we start in August. So this is cutting it super close already. But I mean, if we don't agree at the next meeting, then we don't, we just keep working on it. But I think it's worth trying it now so we don't miss the whole budget season.
Well, and we'll have, we'll have the whole month of June also to tweak, for them to
Right.
tweak this, and,
Okay.
and then for you guys to look at it before it comes up in July again.
Gotcha.
so what is the latest we could do this to meet the budget?
The way we're doing it now. We approved the budget in September, so if we get second reading by August, that would put us in enough time to get it in for the next year's budget.
God, and the rates then are still lagging behind.
The rates are
Rate
gonna have
studies,
to, yes.
there's no chance to get it on there.
So, and my reason for that question is because if we're gonna pay for an ordinance to be drafted, which we are, it's gonna cost us money, and we don't even know if we're going to agree, and that was kind of the question with my
We're not
thing.
drafting the ordinance yet, right? Until.
Sorry,
we
I
dis-
will draft a
Oh.
draft ordinance.
Draft
It's
ordinance.
I'm gonna, not copy exactly, but I'm gonna copy an ordinance, the same subject. I've done these ordinances before for Carrabelle, so no problem. It'll be a simple ordinance. As far as agreeing, I mean, Commissioner Patrick's correct, but I would think there will be some change to the fees and charges, right? So that schedule attached to that, the ordinance is just the vehicle, it'll say, see rates and schedules Exhibit A, and you guys will decide what those rates and charges are, or fees and charges, and it'll get passed. So there will be an ordinance on changing
So at
fees
first
and charges.
reading, if you don't like the changes that they amend after listening to y'all today, they'll have this schedule attached. At first reading, you can make changes. And then by second reading is when you get ready to adopt it, so.
So, in the long run, this is a better way for the future anyways, to have to separate the ordinance. So for future changes.
It's
I-
fine. It's fine to do it this way, but I mean, you're asking me my preference. I would do it all in one ordinance because people go.
I've been here almost
people-
20 years, and this is the same one that was here when I started, so this has not changed.
Yeah, usually when people want to know their utility rates and fees and charges and everything, you go to one ordinance, you have it all in there. But it's not a problem. This is not a problem, meaning if you would give them two ordinances and say, okay, here's your fees and charges, here's your rates, and you're good. I mean, there's no problem doing it this way. It's just,
So, I'm gonna make a motion for the attorney to draft an ordinance to separate the charges, fees, and the rates onto ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick. Do we have a second? I'll second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? And that motion carries. That was a good one.
And I will say too, I'll just add this in, not to, get too much in the weeds, but when we do the, our rate study and change our rates, we can add this back into that ordinance and it'll become one again. So just
Brilliant.
throwing that out there.
Brilliant.
But then if we ever want to change it by itself, we'd have
You
to
guys can go
separate it.
back, But that'll probably be another 20 years, and
All
I won't
right.
be here, so.
Anything else
You might be.
that you guys want to discuss this evening? All right, meeting adjourned.